But he'll look at it and say it was a really good job, wasn't it? Because that's all he knows. And that horrified me, because when you would ask, why did you do it that way? That really wasn't appropriate. The typical answer would be, well, we're doing the best we can. Well, that's a very scary answer. Because when you get that kind of answer, they're not understanding that sometimes the wrong tool makes things worse. And that was frightening to me, because I was getting that kind of answer over and over again. One thing that I was seeing, for instance, in newspapers here after the war was the special court. You were posted, return the rule of law. Well, that's not the way Sierra Leoneans saw it. In fact, most of the time that the special court was going on, Sierra Leoneans just completely ignored it. And yet you have people who were participants in the special court coming back and saying, we have returned the rule of law. I was at Yale Law School in 2004 when I don't even remember, if I did I wouldn't mention. But somebody who was involved in it came and gave an extremely self-congratulatory lecture on how we've returned the rule of law to Sierra Leone. And the people in the law school didn't know enough about Sierra Leone to counter it, but it was so self-congratulatory that they wanted to say something critical, but they didn't know what to say. And yet no one in Sierra Leone would say that the rule of law had been returned. And the reason Sierra Leoneans ignored it because it didn't address any of their real concerns. The Sierra Leonean point of view, and I'm talking about taxi drivers to college professors, was that the war had really been generated not by the rebels and not by the Kamajos being the kind of local militia that started out off okay, but ultimately sort of lost control. In their minds, the war had been started by their politicians, by both parties, SLPP and the APC parties, both the Northern Party and the Southern parties, by years and years of rampant corruption, years and years of deliberate destruction of institutions both within the government and within the civil society. What I'm saying is that government politicians for years and years deliberately dismantled their own governmental institutions and their own civil society institutions, so there wasn't any governance left. And that opened the door to anarchy. And so from the point of view of most Sierra Leoneans, the so-called war wasn't a war at all, it was civil chaos, created by the fact that there was no governance left. There was no, the government, if you could call it that, in quotes, had lost its ability to police its own territory. And so what happened happened. And so from their point of view, the violence that occurred was inevitable, and the people who then